The intrusive thoughts have spoken, and now we have a false swipe gaming parody. Magikarp is infamous for being a joke Pokemon. In fact, when it was introduced in Generation 1, its signature move was Splash, which does nothing whatsoever. Its base stat total is lower than even most baby Pokemon, and its move pool is basically non-existent. But let's see how it fared in the competitive scene, as we asked, how good was Magikarp actually? And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. Unfortunately, Magikarp has no use whatsoever in its debut generation of OU. In RBY, it's outclassed by other water-type attackers like Starmie, Cloyster, and Lapras. Actually, for that matter, you get more mileage out of using Surf with freaking Rhydon, and its special stat is 45. Magikarp's special stat is a pathetic 20, so it can barely deal water-type damage. Upon further review, Magikarp can't deal water damage at all. It can't learn any water-type moves. In fact, its entire move pool is Splash, which again does nothing, and Tackle. You know, the move your Squirtle forgets by level 22. That means it's actually impossible for Magikarp to beat a Gen 1 game on its own. It can't learn any moves that can hit the Ghost types in Lavender Town, let alone Agatha in the Elite Four. Struggle deals normal type damage in Gen 1, so that's not even an option either. Magikarp has no use whatsoever in any Smogon tiers, but what if we told all the usable Pokemon to scram? Well, you would be left with the lowest competitive tier of all time, RBY 10U. Big Yellow made a video about it a while back, but Pokemon Perfect provides an alternative tiering system. 1U and 2U are roughly equivalent to Smogon's OU and UU tiers, and we can keep going down till we reach 10U. And Magikarp has a 100% usage rate in this tier. Well, that's mostly because there's literally only one possible team. With 9 tiers above us, the only Pokemon left are Caterpie, Metapod, Weedle, Kakuna, Ditto, and Magikarp. There's only 6 Pokemon in the entire tier, so you have no choice but to use Magikarp. I mean, I guess you could leave it off your team, but then you would be bringing 5 Pokemon to the battle, and that's just called losing. In this tier, Magikarp is actually not the worst thing in the universe. It actually has the best base stat total in the tier, aside from Ditto, who has no choice but to transform into one of the weaker Pokemon. Magikarp clocks in with a total of 185, compared to Metapod and Kakuna's 180, and Caterpie and Weedle's 175. Welcome to the bottom of the barrel, ladies and gentlemen. Despite effectively having the best stats in 10U, Magikarp isn't the best Pokemon in the tier. Weedle and Kakuna know the move Poison Sting, which provides the only status condition in the tier. So their job is to poison Caterpie, Metapod, Ditto, and Magikarp, then just throw themselves at each other till one of them dies. But there is one thing that saves Magikarp from being completely worthless. Believe it or not, that one thing is Dragon Rage. Back in the Stone Age, the Tamamushi University Hypertest campaign took place, and 20 people were given a rare Magikarp card, alongside an in-game Magikarp that knows the move Dragon Rage. This move does a flat 40 damage, making it slightly stronger than every other move in the tier. But since it does fixed damage, it can break through Metapod and Kakuna's defense boost, which they get by using Harden. So there you have it, folks. Magikarp actually technically has a role to play in Generation 1 battles. Dragon Rage doesn't save Magikarp from not being able to beat Gen 1, by the way. The University Magikarp was distributed at level 15, and it knows Splash and Dragon Rage. There's just one problem. Level 15 is the same level where it normally learns Tackle, so it can never learn Tackle and Dragon Rage at the same time. Scott's Thoughts tried using the University Magikarp in Pokemon Yellow, and he made a video about it, and he couldn't beat the game without spamming X items to boost its stats and drinks to heal it. Magikarp is truly awful. But theoretically, the University Magikarp could actually make a little noise in Pokemon Stadium. In the Pika Cup format, every Pokemon is between levels 15 and 20, so they don't have a ton of HP. Dragon Rage two-shots nearly every Pokemon available in the format, and it's actually one of the fastest level 15 Dragon Rage users, so surprisingly, Magikarp sort of actually has something to do in Gen 1 Pika Cup. Granted, almost nobody has a legitimate University Magikarp, but hey, if they did, it'd actually not be completely unusable. But whether your Magikarp knows Dragon Rage or Fissure, you're still using a freaking Magikarp. Several other Pokemon have access to Dragon Rage, so you're probably better off picking Arcanine or Dragonair or something. Heck, Magikarp's evolution Gyarados is eligible, so you can just use Gyarados. In Generation 2, the special stat was split into Special Attack and Special Defense. Magikarp's special stat of 20 became its Special Defense stat, and its Special Attack stat became 15, so it became even weaker in the transition to Gen 2. Not that it really matters, Magikarp can't learn any special moves in this game. Wait, actually that's not true. If you happen to be in New York in the last week of January 2003, you can get yourself a special Magikarp from an event at the Pokemon Center on 48th Street. This Magikarp came with the move Bubble, the weakest water move in the entire game. Whoopee! Struggle can hit ghost types now, so now Magikarp doesn't have to graduate college to have a fighting chance of beating a game. That's nice. But it also gained access to a brand new move, Flail. This move gets stronger the less HP the user has. Tackle is a flat 35 base power, but Flail maxes out at 200 at critically low health. Did that save it from being horrendously weak? God no. Magikarp's still made out of paper, so it'll probably faint instead of surviving a hit on low health. Gen 2 introduced held items as well. These also did not save Magikarp. I guess it can hold a berry or leftovers, so it can at least have a snack while it gets pummeled into oblivion. Pokemon Stadium 2 introduced a Little Cup format, where only level 5 unevolved Pokemon are allowed. Magikarp's access to Dragon Rage made it an unstoppable monster. No Pokemon had more than 40 health, and Dragon Rage is 100% accurate. That means it's a guaranteed one-shot on every single Pokemon. Slap on a Choice Scarf and go to town on the entire format. Dragon Rage made Magikarp one of the best Pokemon— Just kidding, Dragon Rage is banned. Also, Choice Scarf doesn't exist. Magikarp's full health Flail can actually one-hit KO Steelix, as long as Magikarp is level 10,000. Look, it's doing its best, okay? Pokemon in Gens 1 and 2 can't be transferred to Gen 3, so it's impossible to bring the University Magikarp into Advance. It's the end of an era, fellas. No more Dragon Rage, you hate to see it. Also no Bubble, but who cares? Gen 3 also introduced abilities, which gave a ton of Pokemon buffs they really appreciate. What ability did Magikarp get? Swift Swim. Not a bad ability by any means. Swift Swim Pokemon can absolutely go to town on the opposing team. You know, as long as they're not Magikarp. It's outclassed by literally every other Swift Swim Pokemon in the game. Why use Magikarp when you can use Gorebyss, Huntail, Kabutops, Kingdra, Ludicolo, Luvdisc, Mantine, Omastar, Quillfish? Okay, you get the idea. Heck, Magikarp's even outclassed by Feebas, which has the same base stat total, but it can actually learn moves. It can even use a Rain Dance to set up the rain itself, activating its own Swift Swim. Not recommended. Don't use Magikarp, obviously, but don't use Feebas either. Magikarp's item of choice for this generation is the Thick Club. By throwing it at the opponent, it'll do more damage than a critical max power Flail. That's not true. Magikarp called in sick for the entirety of Generation 4. Apparently gained access to Bounce this gen. That's nice. Next. After taking a few years off to swim to its heart's content, Magikarp jumped back into the fold in Generation 5. Now it had access to Hydro Pump, one of the strongest water-type moves in the game. But must I remind you how low its special attack stat is? A Magikarp's Hydro Pump is weaker than a Gyarados' Bubble. Don't run the calcs on that, just trust me. During Magikarp's sabbatical, Dragon Rage was unbanned from Little Cup, and it could go hog wild in the format like Arceus intended. Yeah, that's a lie, still banned. But hey, if you want to use a level 5 Dragon Rage Carp against your friends, who am I to stop you? Magikarp actually has a Smogon analysis written for it this gen, and it recommends a wide variety of equally useless items. My pick for this generation is the Air Balloon. That'll allow Magikarp to fly away from the battle, and maybe floating through the sky will let it evolve into Gyarados sooner. It is a flying type after all. We're still doing research into this topic, but we'll keep you posted when we find an answer. No, we won't. In all seriousness, the best item for Magikarp is the Focus Sash. Well, it's the least bad item at least. It's frail as all get out, but by holding a Focus Sash, it can survive moves that would otherwise be one-shots with 1 HP. Then it can fire off 1 max power Flail, and do maybe 15 or 16 damage before perishing. But you might also consider holding a Choice Scarf to look stylish, or a stick, so Magikarp can get dragged away from the battle by the Farfetch'd you stole the stick from, disqualifying Carp from the battle. At this point, it would rather be disqualified than embarrass itself any further. Smogon pages also have a section for checks and counters, which talk about opposing Pokemon you have to watch out for. Basically everything in the game counters Magikarp, but Smogon sums it up quite nicely. Stop using an old rod. If you were looking for Magikarp VGC highlights, you came to the wrong video. Generation 6 introduced Mega Evolutions, and Magikarp predictably did not get one. Just use Gyarados, man. My pick for held item this generation is an eject button, so Magikarp can get out of here a little faster. It also gained access to 2 more moves. Were these gonna give Magikarp the boost it needed to finally become viable? God, no. You know how Splash does nothing? Well, Magikarp's 2 new moves are Celebrate and Hold Hands, which also do nothing. Also, what hand is Magikarp using to hold exactly? Whatever. Gen 7 through 9 are more of the same, so I'll spare you the details. Magikarp is useless and we all know that. I don't need to make a 20-minute video to tell you how bad it is. Frankly, I'm embarrassed how much time I spent researching this video. Granted, I threw the script together in an evening while the Yankees were losing, but still. If anything though, it actually got even worse in Gen 9. It lost access to Hydro Pump and Bounce. And that's it. So how good was Magikarp actually? Well, you probably knew the answer if you clicked on this video. The one move it's known for does nothing. Its stats are among the lowest in the game, but hey, at least it evolves into Gyarados, which is actually pretty strong. The nicest thing you can say about Carp itself is that it wasn't completely unusable 25 years ago. All that nonsense aside, go check out False Swipe Gaming if you haven't already. They have some of the best competitive Pokemon videos on YouTube, in my humble onion. And that's all I got for today. If you enjoyed yourself, subscribe to Me Plays Games. I make, like, actual videos on this channel as well, so feel free to check them out. If you thought this was the stupidest thing you've ever watched, well, I can't blame you. I'll see you all next time with a marginally less ridiculous video. Good night, fellas, sleep well.